Welcome back to the 2022 Hawaii Early College Convening, Setting Students Up for Success. Thank you all for joining us virtually yesterday and today for this statewide early college event. My name is Nicole Atwood, and I'm the Early College Program Director at Hawaii P20 Partnerships for Education. This convening is an opportunity to bring together secondary and post-secondary practitioners and leaders engaged in early college work to explore timely topics related to the early college program in Hawaii. Our local and national speakers are sharing strategies and resources that have been successful in setting up early college students for success and supporting them through their entire journey.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Wendy Vincent, Interim Administrator for the Career Readiness section in the Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design at the Hawaii State Department of Education. Nicole and I have been grateful to hear from some of you about your impressions and takeaways from day one of the convening, and mahalo to everyone who has filled out the event survey so far. We're going to kick off day two by reviewing some of the big items that came out of yesterday's sessions. So to get everyone warmed up for another great day of reflection and learning, we're going to start with a little game. Don't worry if you weren't able to attend yesterday. These questions are high level enough that you'll still be able to answer them.
So here's what we're going to do. We're doing a Mentimeter quiz. Hopefully it'll be a fun way to start the day. Please, everyone, if you could go to www.menti.com and use the code that you see on the screen, 2570506. We'll give you all a few minutes to join. You have to choose a name. You can choose your name, a made-up name, whatever you guys would like.
And please do get on to Menti. You're actually going to be engaged with this once again with our plenary speaker. So we think this is a good opportunity for you to get onto the platform and get acquainted with it.
So we'll give you guys all maybe another 30 seconds to join, and then we'll show the first question. We'll have 5 questions, and then one of you will be crowned the leader, the best at knowing things about early college, based on your correct answers to the questions, as well as how quickly you respond.
And we know there's more of you out there, so please don't hesitate. Get on to menti.com. It'll be a fun game, I promise. We won't kick you out if you get them wrong.
Not at all. Okay. Wendy, do you want to give 30 more seconds, or do you want to get started?
Why don't we give them 20 more seconds?
Okay.
And the link and the code are in the chat for your convenience. So again, please get onto the site.
Okay. I know there are more of you out there, but we're just going to get started with who we have. So let's play the game. Okay. Here is our first question. Students who participate in early college are more likely to, I don't know. What do you guys think? Enroll in college, persist from their first to second year in college, get their college degree or certificate, or all of the above? Yay, you guys are super smart. Great job. You're totally right. Students who participate in early college are more likely to enroll in college. As we showed yesterday, as Superintendent Hayashi shared in his presentation yesterday, students on average for the last few years who have participated in early college enrolled in college first fall at a rate of 77%. And we're seeing similarly high rates in the 80s or 90s for persisting from their first to second year in college, and then also high rates for getting their college degree or certificate on time. Okay, next question. Oh, please work. Oh God, Wendy, how do I go to the next one?
Okay, there you go.
Here we go. Question 2 of 5.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy. Oh, that wasn't right. Okay, hold on. Okay, students who participate in early college are more likely to. Oh, no. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Next one. Okay. Okay, early college programs can help students. Is it identify and clarify their future plans, pursue their interests and passions, hone their skills, transition to college, or all of the above? You guys are totally right. So this is what our early college alumni panel was talking about yesterday. So they were talking about the ways in which early college helped them identify and clarify their future plans, pursue their interests and passions, hone their skills, and how it helped them with the transition to college. And they gave some recommendations about how the early college program could do all of these things even better.
We want to emphasize this list obviously is not all inclusive. As we were reminded in the welcome messages that occurred before yesterday's plenary, early college has a wide variety of benefits for participants. And I always feel somewhat dramatic saying that the program is life-changing, but for some of our participants, it really is. It really can change the trajectory and the overall quality of their lives, not just for them, but for their families as well as their communities.
Okay, here's our next question. Early college looks the same in every state. Yes, every state has the same program and terminology, or no, early college can look different in other states. Good job, guys. Yes, as our presenters from Idaho, Texas, and Maine showed us yesterday, and we'll have presentations from Oklahoma and Kentucky today. Dual credit or dual enrollment programs, which include early college, can look totally different in other states. Other states can fund it differently. Other states may use high school teachers to teach the classes instead of the college instructors we typically use in Hawaii. It's different in every state. Wendy, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, this actually came up in the Idaho presentation as well. And I think that in the dual credit landscape nationally, as well as here statewide, I think this is an area of concern or concentration that we want to help ensure that people are ultimately speaking the same language, that when we reference terms that we mean the same things, because that really will help us be able to move our dialogues forward more clearly and with better outcomes.
Okay, fourth question. It's always better to take more early college courses. Yes or no? What do you guys think? Oh, interesting. Yes. Okay. So this is, I guess I would say, a common misconception. So yes, it is great for students to have early college courses and early college opportunities. But as our presenters in Maine showed us yesterday, and if you guys didn't have a chance to watch the session, you guys should watch it when the recordings become available in about 3 weeks. It's not always better to take more courses. It's really important that the courses that students take are courses that are going to be applicable to their future college and career plans. Because there can be negative implications if students take too many classes that aren't relevant to their future college degree, or if they don't pass those classes. It can set them up negatively, both from a financial aid perspective and a satisfactory time to degree perspective, which also impacts financial aid. So yes, it is great to offer early college classes to your students, but it's important that we're intentional and that advising is part of the process to make sure that students are taking classes that are going to be relevant to their future degree. Do you want to add anything, Wendy?
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll add, and we'll touch on this just a little bit further in a few moments, is that I think this is where our work in really trying to nurture partnerships is also very important, right? That we're having a very cohesive and well thought through planning and execution that's happening with both our high school and UH partners, that work should be happening in consultation with each other, in collaboration with each other, and ultimately moving forward shared goals with that intention that you mentioned.
Okay, here is our last question for you guys. When someone says early college, they're only referring to college classes offered to high school students. Is it yes, taking a college course is what early college is all about? Or no, early college programs should have other components as well? Okay, guys, so yes, definitely taking a college class is what early college is all about, but it's not just about taking the course. Students who are successful in early college and really holistic early college programs should include advising, support, and advising and counseling support for students. They should, on both the high school and college end, access to academic support services to support students during the class. Um, it's more than just the class. In order for students to be successful, particularly students from our populations underrepresented in higher ed, we should really build wraparound support services into the program for students.
That's what makes the program so complicated, right? And why there's so many pieces to it. I think that this is a good reminder. Early college is our most popular dual credit program in the state. Running Start is the next one, and I think this question is getting at what really differentiates early college from other dual credit programs, right? That there needs to be that building in of the support services for students. That's supposed to be a guarantee for early college. It's one of the ways in which we ensure that students are ultimately being set up to successfully move into post-secondary studies and to be able to thrive in those post-secondary studies.
So sorry, the last two questions were a little tricky. Thank you guys who stuck with us through the entire mentee presentation. We hope it was fun. And what does our leaderboard look like? Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh. Things are just changing all over the place. Whoever LT is, good job. You won. Congratulations on all of your early college knowledge. And thanks for participating with us.
LT, if you wouldn't mind sharing your contact information, you want to get in touch off group, that's fine too. But I'd like to send you a little reward for not only participating, but for being the leader in this game. So please send us an email to let us know who you were. Thanks so much, everyone, for participating. And I think, so many great reminders and ideas came out of day one. Nicole and I were struck by how our sessions really underscored the value of partnership that I mentioned before. She and I are reminded always of the importance of partnership every day in the work that we do together at the state level, but to see it in action in other contexts is really special. And a program like early college simply can't happen without the collaboration and support of a wide variety of partners, from the high schools and UH campuses that work together to provide students with these important opportunities, to everyone who has a hand within each school and within each UH campus to ensure that students are supported in the process.
Wendy and I were also happy to hear from some of you that you valued having the opportunity to think deeply about the supports we provide to students throughout their entire college experience. We were reminded in the game that we just played that early college is not just about offering college classes, but about providing intentional programming and support to best promote student success and the awareness that college is within reach. Yesterday, some of our sessions really called out the importance of advising in the early college experience as an important way of increasing equity for our students.
Absolutely. And I think that connects with one point that came up in several sessions yesterday, including our fantastic plenary, which is the importance of meeting students wherever they are and being able to respond to their needs in order to best guide them for success. Our speakers really drove home how critical it is to build connections with our students and engage them to be active agents in their journeys toward post-secondary, workforce, and life readiness. And that really sets us up beautifully for day two and our opening plenary. So I am very pleased to introduce Andrew Tucker, Director of Policy at the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL. Andy has been an educator for over 25 years and held teaching, counseling, and administrative roles at the school and district levels. Prior to joining CASEL, he served as the Director of Post-Secondary and Workforce Readiness at the Colorado Department of Education, which included oversight of dual enrollment and early college policy and programs. Currently, Andy works with state agencies and policymakers across the nation to help them understand the benefits of social and emotional learning for learners of all ages, including the many ways in which SEL can build supportive environments for learners to develop essential lifelong skills. He also leads the Collaborating States initiative, working with state leaders to support the implementation of high-quality, evidence-based SEL programming in all learning environments. So please join me in welcoming Andy. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And hello, everyone. I think the correct way to say that in Hawaii is aloha. So thank you for having me here today. I really do appreciate it. I've traveled extensively in the United States, but one of the 3 states I have not visited is Hawaii. And I hope that that is the first state that I get to visit that I have not yet visited, because I've heard wonderful things. I tried to convince Nicole and Wendy to let me be there in person today, but unfortunately, I'm actually talking to you today from Austin, Texas, where I am just for the weekend. So it's a pleasure to be here. As Wendy mentioned, I am the director of policy at CASEL. CASEL is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. CASEL is the world leader in social and emotional learning and the primary research organization supporting social and emotional learning across the world, throughout the world, and largely in the United States. So I'm very, very excited to be here. As Wendy also mentioned, my background really is in early college programs. I am a former educator, a school counselor, district administrator, where I oversaw early college programs at the state level as well. So very familiar with the work that you all do, and I'm very, very appreciative of the work that you do with students. If we want to go ahead and share the slides, Aaron, that would be great. So today I want to talk to you about how you can help early college students to build the skills necessary and that they need in order to thrive. So I already told you, the next slide will show you, I already told you a little bit about who I am. And so we'll go to the next slide, and it's going to be another Menti. So you're going to need to log back in, and you'll go to that code that's there. Okay. And so if you'll go to that code, and what you're going to do is you're going to enter, what skills do you think, and this is a warm welcome, by the way, and every good social and emotional learning activity starts with a warm welcome. So our warm welcome today is, what skills do students need to be successful in life? So Aaron, if you want to unshare, I will share my screen and show the results as they come in. So please, you can enter up to 4 of your own answers. And empathy, great. Critical thinking. Communication. As this word cloud develops, and I think that, as you can see, what this word cloud is showing us is there it comes. So the word cloud is showing us that communication, I think everybody feels is the strongest, but the largest words are those that people are entering more than once. So we've got empathy and communication, organization, resourcefulness, positive mindset. There's some critical thinking in there, interpersonal skills, determination, time management, flexibility, resiliency, persistence, etc. Yes, all of these things are absolutely critical for success in life, right? We know these. These are things that we often consider that people, there are so many terms for these skills, right? These skills can be considered to be soft skills, though that's probably my least favorite term for them, because these skills are not soft. They're actually quite hard. They're hard to develop. A very common term that is used these days are durable skills. So yes, these are skills that students learn, and they're durable, and they stay with them for a lifetime. So thank you for that. We can go back to the slide deck now. Let me unshare my screen, which I think you're going to need me to do. Oh, no, you don't. Okay, great. So with that said, and thank you for sharing, everybody, and thank you for participating. What is social and emotional learning? What is it? Well, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL, I'm just going to start using CASEL from here on out. CASEL describes social and emotional learning, or SEL, you'll hear me use those interchangeably, as the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, to set and achieve positive goals, to feel and show empathy for others, to establish and maintain positive relationships, and to make responsible decisions. I think that what you probably saw in that Menti that we did a second ago is all of these things, right? I think we saw things that people discussed as being managing emotions and understanding their emotions and setting and achieving positive goals, etc. Empathy was a word that showed up specifically. Positive relationship skills is another thing that showed up very specifically. So that is what as we talk about SEL today, social and emotional learning, and I want to point out that it is social and emotional learning. You may have heard of this term as social emotional learning, and the "and" is actually really important. Why? Because it's social learning and emotional learning. For example, some of us might have really great emotional regulation skills, but we have less strong social skills. Or the opposite may be true. Or we may be really strong in all. Hopefully we all are. But this is a developmental process. But there's social skills and emotional skills. It's social learning and emotional learning. So the social and emotional learning. So with that, we can go to the next slide, please. What the next slide will show us is it will show us how CASEL really the infographic that is CASEL's model. This is often called the CASEL wheel. And what you'll see is the 5 broad and interrelated areas of competency are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Then on the outside, and I'm not going to go into great depth right now about the outside, but on the outside, you're going to see that where do students get these skills? Where do they acquire these skills? Where do they learn these skills? Well, in a variety of different ecosystems and a variety of different environments in which they interact. From classrooms and schools, families and caregivers are obviously an essential, and they're the first teacher that students have to develop these skills, and in the communities in which they live. On the next slide, what you're going to see is how we actually define these. So if you click once, what we're going to see is hopefully self-awareness. And so what self-awareness is, click one more time, it's identifying emotions, right? When you're self-aware, you can identify your emotions. You have a strong cultural identity. You have a strong sense of self and self-confidence. You have a growth mindset. I saw that in there too, positive mindset that somebody put in there. So you have self-efficacy. If we click again, you're going to see that the next one that we're going to talk about is self-management. And what does self-management mean? Self-management implies that you have impulse control, or you can have stress management, self-discipline, self-motivation, etc. That you can set goals, that you can persevere. Those were things that you all put in the Mentee as well. If you click again, what we're going to learn about is social awareness. So if you have social awareness, you know how to take other people's perspectives. You can have empathy for others. You can appreciate who they are for where they come from. I really appreciated that Wendy and Nicole spoke at the beginning about how yesterday you learned that it's meeting students where they are. Yeah, we need our students to be able to do that too, to understand where they are and to be able to meet other people where they are. So that's social awareness. Next, we'll talk about relationship skills. And relationship skills can be defined by communication. That was the biggest skill that you all talked about, right? So communication and building relationships, working cooperatively. I mean, how often does that happen in an early college classroom, right? Where students work cooperatively, or they might have to resolve conflicts. All of these things happen, so I don't want to foreshadow what we're going to do next. So the next slide, if the last thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about responsible decision making. Responsible decision-making involves identifying problems or analyzing solutions, right? Reflecting, having ethical responsibility, etc. So when you think about the different competencies, which are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making, what you see are skills that students learn and students acquire as they acquire these competencies. So with that being said, if we go to the next slide, what I'd like to do, before I move on to the next, I want to make sure that you're aware. And some of you I know you work all over both in the K-12 space and in the higher ed space. I also know that many of you work directly with students in an advising role. Others of you might instruct them. So what you need to know is that SEL already is in Hawaii schools, right? And it goes by the Ha-Breath terminology, I think, is how they talk about social and emotional learning in Hawaii. So if you have never seen the information about social and emotional learning in Hawaii schools, I encourage you to look at those documents so you can see how Hawaii has determined that they are going to help to describe social and emotional learning, which is slightly different than CASEL, but it's based on the CASEL's framework, as most states in the United States and many countries have adopted CASEL's framework that we saw earlier. So with that being said, on the next slide, what you're going to see is another Mentee. So if you would log back into Menti, and I'm going to take us to the next slide, and you're going to be able to go in, and now we're going to ask, what skills do students need to be successful in an early college classroom? Oh, I was already there. What skills do students need to be successful in an early college classroom? Asking questions, perseverance, support, time management, drive, confidence, learning to prioritize, yes. Intrinsic motivation, okay. Confidence, growth mindsets there again. Resources, self-advocacy. Look, that self-advocacy is showing up twice. I'm not sure why they didn't just make it one big, make it larger. Yes, confidence, knowledge, dedication, initiative, etc. Yes, thank you. So when we think about this, students need all of these things. You're right. And what do we see here? We see that many of these are exactly the same, right? They need the same skills that they need in life to be successful in an early college classroom. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So if we can go back to the slide deck. Thank you very much for participating in both of those mentees. So as we go on to the next slide, what I want you to understand is that CASEL has been engaging in with many, many states across the country around development of career and workforce development. And when we talk about and how SEL aligns with career and workforce development, and when we talk about career and workforce development, what we're talking about is we're talking about anything that helps students to prepare for that next step in their life, right? For promoting post-secondary success. That can be career and technical education courses, other types of career pathways, or things like early colleges, work-based learning, early college programs, work-based learning, or things like that. So what we're going to talk about now, if you go to the next, what you're going to see now is you're going to see a video of how our friends, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong. Sorry, I might be getting ahead of myself. Sorry, no. So what you're in when we talk about career and workforce development, what we're talking about is we're talking about those skills, right? When we think about there's a report that we did along with Civic and the Coalition for Career Development Center, and they in that report we aligned the SEL competencies with workforce readiness skills, and those skills are the ones that we all have discussed before, that we saw somewhat in that slide that I showed before. But this is a crosswalk between those skills and the skills that employers most seek, especially in job postings. So this is using Burning Glass data, which is a website that tracks job descriptions and job postings. And these are the skills that employers most seek. And so when we look at this, we see a lot of those things that you're talking about. And correct me if I'm wrong, but students need these exact skills to be successful in your classrooms and to be successful in early college. We see in this list, right? We see many of the things that you've discussed, such as positive attitude. I think that was written there. Exactly. Punctuality. I think somebody put that. Strategic planning, maybe not, but works well under pressure, right? Ability to work with people with different cultures and backgrounds. How important is that? Especially when we're talking about students who are from very, very different backgrounds who are entering an early college classroom. Written and oral communication skills and teamwork and working well with others. Responsible decision making, such as integrity and honesty. People put those are the things that you discussed there. So if we go on to the next slide, we also created a report that you'll see in the chat. And this report is Educating Future Ready Students. And this is a policy roadmap. And so the next 5 slides or 6 slides are the slides that kind of outline high level what it looks like to embed SEL in workforce development and workforce readiness programming, such as early college programming. So the first one, if we go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, we're going to move to Terry. So Terry Lawler is in Delaware. And Delaware has done amazing work in both early college and dual credit work, and also in the implementation of social and emotional learning. So we can play this video, please.
Where we started was really from a foundation of a mutual desire to see young people have opportunities that allowed them to pursue passionately their interests, and then also to live with purpose. The intent of all of our work in developing opportunities for college and career readiness is the understanding that, SEL is a foundation for life. And we want young people to be able to understand and explore their own emotions, but also live cohesively in communities where we're able to do perspective taking and demonstrate social awareness to build stronger, more resilient um, landscapes for everyone. And so to do that, we have to work collaboratively, and that foundation and that desire to cultivate sort of a culture of care for everyone becomes a springboard for every policy decision.
Thank you for your wisdom, Terry. And I think that what we heard from Terry's words is just the importance of social and emotional learning to help students really do prepare for life, and that we all have a part to play in helping to develop those social and emotional learning skills. So if we go to the next slide. We know that the current U.S. education system's vision of student success fails to capture the full breadth of student learning, right? And we know that states can influence a more robust vision of student success. So in order to do that, next slide, please. Thank you. We know, and this is something that Terry talked about in her video. It sounds like you talked about this yesterday, that students need the support of a range of caring and encouraging adults. That includes everyone who interacts with them. It's not just the people in the classroom, but it's school counselors. I know this should say school counselors. All you school counselors out there, I know you are not guidance counselors. I'm a school counselor too. This is a slide that I borrowed and I couldn't change the wording. So I know you are school counselors. So and it doesn't include just educators and school counselors, but it includes everybody. Those people that advise them, those people that work with them in different environments. Those of you that are advisors at the college level, helping them to understand and build these skills is vital. Next slide, please. We also know that a positive school climate, sounds like you all talked about that yesterday as well, that a positive school climate really does boost academic outcomes and reduces a lot of the barriers that many of our students face. I know that there in Hawaii that you are working with students from a variety of backgrounds and really working to build equity into your system, which we'll talk about again in much more detail in a second. So next slide, please. We also know that the students need to be studying, they need to learn they need to learn topics that are relevant to them. Relevancy is key, right? We know that. We can't just teach them about a subject area without helping them understand how that's relevant in their life, without building those relationships, without building those connections for them. Next slide, please. And that to allow them to have multiple on-ramps and off-ramps for their chosen pathway. These are key features of any system that helps students to develop the social and emotional competencies that they need in order to be successful in life. So what we're going to talk about, so I'm going to pause for a second and just help you understand that social and emotional learning is embedded everywhere. Social and emotional learning is not something that you do for 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes a week. It is something that is part of the work that we do implicitly in the classrooms that we oversee. It is something that students access on every day with every individual. It's how we interact with each other. It's how we build those warm, welcoming environments so that they can develop the skills that they need to be successful in life. So with the next slide, please. Next slide, we'll skip that one. What we're going to talk about now is how CASEL has helped us to define how SEL can support equity and how SEL can support equity in schools. And I know that is a specific focus there in Hawaii. So with the next slide, what you will see is next slide, there we go, thank you. You will see that we have aligned our competencies with focal constructs that are key portions of an equitable environment for students, ultimately yielding a profile of a graduate, which I know you don't have a specific profile of the graduate there in Hawaii, but profiles of a graduate help us to understand that self-awareness is really about identity, right? That self-management is about agency, and we'll talk more about each one of these in greater detail in a second. That social awareness is about belonging. That relationship skills yield good collaborative problem solving. and that responsible decision-making is guided by curiosity. So let's look at each one of these individually. So with identity, and before I jump in too deep, what we're going to do when I get done with this section is, and as you hear what we're going to talk about in this section, what I hope you'll do is think about, how does this apply to the work that you do with students? And at the end of this section, what we're going to do is we're going to get into a Padlet, and I'm going to ask you to think about it and to post some ideas that you have about how you can develop each of these focal constructs with students in the work that you do with them. So with the next slide, what we're going to find out is we're going to start looking at identity. So identity is I am, right? So click, please. So when we think about identity refers to how students and adults view themselves. And the one thing I have not mentioned, and I should have is throughout this slide, is that SEL is not just about students, right? We as adults need these social and emotional competencies. I mean, it's kind of implied in what we were talking about before, how vital it is to have all of this to be successful in life. For us to be successful in life as adults, we need to have this too, right? So I am and identity refers to how students and adults view themselves. It is multidimensional, and it enhances and encourages self-reflection and self-respect. Click, please. Again, we think that this is that identity is absolutely connected to self-awareness, right? If it's a mirror in a window, you understand yourself in the world around you. Next slide, please. So what do we think about when we think about identity? Healthy identity. If students are seen for who they are and they see themselves for who they are, it buffers against negative or traumatic experiences and contributes to positive outcomes. And when educators understand their own identity, it allows for their reflection to impact their students. It positions them to develop supportive relationships with youth, right, of differing identities, and it creates an openness to identities and cultures of others. The next construct we'll talk about on the next slide is agency. And agency aligns with self-management, right? So if you can manage yourself, you have a perceived and actual capacity to affect change through action. If you know that about yourself, it is key to the success because it allows them to make choices and take intentional action to shape the course of their lives and enhances hope and self-direction. Next slide. So what does this mean? When students have agency, it helps to redistribute the power, and it creates an opportunity for voice. The voice and choice. Voice and choice is so key to what we do with students to help them really see themselves in the work that they're doing. It helps them to have it helps us to evaluate our implementation and the work that we do to ensure equitable outcomes. And it recognizes individuals as experts of themselves. Next slide, please. Belonging. Belonging is social awareness. And if there's one thing that I hope that we all can take away from this today is that creating a sense of belonging, or all of these really, but creating a sense of belonging is so vital, particularly in the early college classroom, right? And for students who are accessing early college for the first time, I know that when I did this work, and I've done this work for many, many years, one of the biggest concerns is that some students have either received the message explicitly or implicitly that they do not belong in an early college classroom. So helping us have the social awareness to help them feel a sense of belonging is incredibly important. Because when they feel that they belong, they feel recognized. They feel recognized. They're fully involved in the relationship building that they do. They help co-create their learning spaces, especially if we give them the agency that we talked about before. And it enhances their self-worth. Next slide, please. So with belonging, click please. It helps us to co-construct with students. We've mentioned that. It helps us be responsive to their needs and helps them feel like they can express their needs when we give them a sense of belonging. And it prioritizes connectedness, How do we do this? Of course, we have to build relationships. And I know that you talked about this yesterday, but the importance of building positive relationships with students cannot be overstated. Next slide, please. Collaborative problem solving is connected with relationship skills. So if students can collaboratively problem solve, they have the capacity to engage in a process with others to solve a problem. They have a shared understanding of that problem. They all exert effort together. When we do group work, project work, in our early college classrooms, this is what they get. This is what they can do, and this is how they build those relationship skills. It's not just learning how to do the work with the content. It's about building the capacity to work with one another. We know this, but it also enhances the equity and excellence in the classroom because it gives everyone a voice. And it's also, as it says there, it's a complex skill set that's in high demand. We know this. Collaboration is absolutely one of the highest valued skills in the workforce. How to collaborate well. Next slide, please. So with collaborative problem solving, it values the diverse perspectives. Everybody's going to come at a problem in a different way, and it helps people figure those things out. It elevates the power of pooling knowledge. We know that, right? It values existing collective cultures and practices. And finally, it facilitates a shift of power. And that's really, really vital in a classroom and to help our students feel heard, feel like they belong, feel like they have agency, et cetera. And the last construct we'll talk about is curiosity, which is around responsible decision making. So it's a deep need to continually surface and curate information about oneself and others, and which enhances self-development in social analysis. If we go to the next slide, what we'll see is that by allowing students to be curious, by encouraging them to make responsible decisions, it leads them to question themselves and their community and their society. It helps them to co-create solutions. It helps them to analyze their personal actions and how they affect others. This curiosity is key to be an effective member of our society. So with all of that being said, if we go to the next slide, we're going to skip this video because we don't have time. So you'll get the slide deck and you can watch the video later. I'll make sure you have a link. So if we can go to the next slide. There we go. Perfect. What I'd love to do is, if you've never used a Padlet before, a Padlet is similar to a Jamboard. It's like a sticky note, right? So I'll share my screen now and show you. Maybe you can flip me over, Aaron. I think you can. There we go. I'll show. So what we're going to do is, I would love for you to get onto this Padlet. I think the Padlet's link is going into the chat right now. And what you're going to see is these five constructs that we talked about. What I would love for you to do is to use this Padlet to share with each other strategies that you use to further equity when you work with students. So what are specific strategies? What can you do? So the way you use Padlet is you can click this little plus button. The window comes up. You type something in there, right? Then you click testing. Then you click publish, and it'll show up here. Now, when other people enter their information into Padlet, you can reply to their Padlet by adding a comment here. You can like it by clicking the heart button there. So I ask that you all just jump in. We'll spend a few minutes on this. We're not going to spend a ton of time, but I would love for you to spend a couple of minutes talking about how you develop these constructs, how you use these constructs, how you develop these competencies in students in the work that you do with them. And I know that you all do different things. So. And you have different roles. So please. And make sure it's working. I think it is. There we go. There it is. There we go. Clubs and leadership classes to do collaborative problem solving. Yes, thank you. For belonging, there's an orientation. That's important. What else? Connect the students to a place. Thank you. For identity. Give one. So SEL activities, you do actual activities. Great. There, give one, take one, and pass out a flower. Nice. That's wonderful. If anybody would like more information on that, add a comment. That we can leave this Padlet open for the future so that you all can go back and look at what other people have said. so that you can get other ideas and get ideas from one another. I would encourage that sort of collaboration. Collaboration, as we know, as we talked about, is absolutely key. Curiosity, self-directed projects and inquiry. Yes. Wondering with agency, is there anybody, and I haven't seen anything go up there yet. Is there anybody that provides a lot of opportunity for choice and for students to voice what they want to do and how they want to engage with the content? Cultural identity activities. That's wonderful. So with the agency, you survey students on what kinds of change they would like to see in the school. These are the sorts of things that would be wonderful to be able to share with one another so that you can really engage students. Now, SEL, and please keep typing while I talk, but SEL is it's evidence-based. So there's all kinds of evidence, and I'm going to share this slide deck with you that's going to have a lot of evidence. That's going to show you all the evidence around it. But specific programs are much more common for the elementary and middle schools. And in high school, it's more about how do we work with students and build that environment so they can develop these sorts of skills and have agency, identity, belonging, collaborative problem solving, curiosity, etc. So in the interest of time, we're going to go back to the slide deck. But I hope that you'll continue to add things to this Padlet and that you'll continue to share with one another. So the last thing I want to talk about is, why is this so important right now? Why is SEL so vital in what we do? Well, because we just went through sort of went through, but we're still in the midst of a pandemic. So if we can click, please. We know that students right now are struggling. You know this, you've seen this, academically, socially, and emotionally. The headlines are everywhere, right? Showing that there is all kinds of, the students are struggling. We know this. And so by providing them, helping them to develop these skills, by providing them these environments where they can feel like they belong, where they feel like they have agency, etc., we can help them to develop the skills so that they struggle less, because social and emotional learning is directly linked to academic performance. Next click, please. We also know that teachers are burnt out and are leaving the classroom in record numbers. I'm sure you've seen that there in Hawaii. It's happening all over the country. And then we're having trouble filling those positions when people leave. So what I would say, and social and emotional learning is proven that there's evidence that shows that when there's strong social and emotional learning occurring in schools, the teachers are far happier. With employers and post-secondary education institutions, they consistently report that students are not prepared for the next step. How many of you work in higher ed? Many of you, I think. And if those of you that work in higher ed, are you seeing students come with the skills you need? No, but that's the great thing about an early college program, right? Is we can help them to develop those skills. And if we all work together to have have effective social and emotional learning programming, then we can help students to build those skills so that they are better prepared for that next step. Next click, please. And we can also, and we can emphasize, as we've done in this presentation, right, as we've done together, we can emphasize that the skills that students lack are the exact same as the social and emotional skills that we've talked about. Finally, parents and educators. There's overwhelming support of explicit instruction in social and emotional learning skills in the classroom. You may have heard that it is certainly not as loud in Hawaii as it is in other places, but this has become a political hot button issue. But in claiming that parents don't think that schools should do this. But there's overwhelming support. Well over 80% of parents say that they support the development of these skills in their children. So despite the fact that we may be hearing in the news and from politics that social and emotional learning is a hot button or is a Trojan horse for critical race theory or what have you, what the reality is that when we don't use the term, but we talk about the skills that students learn, that parents, teachers, community members, employers, etc., all recognize the vital importance of this work. Next, and the next click, I think. So I'm going to stop there in the interest of time and to give you folks a chance to ask some questions. In this slide deck is a huge amount of research. So I would encourage, we'll share the deck with you, and I would encourage you to look at what the research says. So if we could go to the next to last slide, we can go one more slide. I just want to show one more slide. So it's the next to last slide. It says optimistic closure on it. So if we could go to that slide, please. It's like 5 slides down. So there we go. Perfect. So what I would love for you to do, and you can just think about this. If somebody wants to be brave enough to post it in the chat, please do. So based on what you have heard from me today, what is one idea that you can take away and implement with students immediately? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it. And if there's a brave soul out there that would that wants to put something in the chat, or many brave souls, please do. While there are no brave souls, that's fine. I hope that you have been able to come up with something in your head that you can say, you know what, I'm going to go, and I understand that social and emotional learning is important, and I understand that building agency and senses of belonging, et cetera, is important, and so I am going to do this with students moving forward. I hope I've been able to inspire you in that way. Next slide, please. I encourage you with the next slide. If you have any questions, thank you. I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. As we plan for registration for classes next year, I'll be adding points to this presentation to our classroom guidance lesson. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. Thank you. If you have questions that I can't answer right now, I encourage you to reach out to me. Ask. I'm an open book. I would love to help. I know the work that you do very, very well, and I very much appreciate your attention today, inviting me here today, and I hope that this has been worthwhile for you. So with that, I'll turn it over to you if you have any questions.
Our audience is a little shy today. I'm sorry, Andy, but so I'm going to dive in and maybe add a question of my own. And hopefully we'll have some come through. But first, I want to thank you for this presentation. I think it's given us a lot to think about in the state of Hawaii. It's a very timely presentation for us. Thank you especially for those nuggets related to how SEL and equity work together. Equity and the advancement of equity within the context of early college is absolutely going to be in future conversations for our state. And so I think this is really critical for us to be thinking about very thoughtfully. And also, one other point, thank you for acknowledging all of the stressors of the pandemic and why we should be thinking about this in the context of early college and really in education as a whole. I think if we're going to do right by our students, we need to acknowledge that we've all been through a trauma, students as well as educators. And how do we work through that? How do we come through on the other side healthy? It's important. It's important that we don't ignore that. So thank you so much for all of that. When we were talking about this session, one of the things that we talked about was that our audience was not going to have a pretty high number of instructors or people that are directly in the classroom with our early college students. So do you have any maybe recommendations about what the rest of us in the audience, which is primarily going to be our coordinators, our administrators, right? People who work with students in different ways, should be thinking about or could be thinking about in terms of developing students' sense of belonging within early college, and particularly in making students feel like early college can be a program for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, Wendy, and it's a question that I think that people across the country struggle with, and I know that you do there in Hawaii as well. I mean, I think that when you think about a sense of belonging, it's helping students to see people like them that have had success, people who look like them, other students who have looked like them who have had success. Bringing other students in, having them engage in that way. But I also think it's incumbent upon us as adults to help them to recognize that they can, to help them to develop that sense of agency, to help them develop that sense. And it's difficult to do. There's no silver bullet here. There's no easy answer. Otherwise, we would have done this a long time ago, right? But I mean, the reality is that show them the data that shows that students who come from backgrounds such as yours are not only successful, but it leads to these outcomes for them. I think that is absolutely vital.
Thanks for putting that in the chat, Nicole. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for putting the question in the chat, Nicole. I hope that there's some takers. I think this is this is a question that people can answer. So if you wouldn't mind putting your answers into the chat, it would be great for us to learn from each other. And while you're doing that, maybe if we could go one more question, Andy, because we're almost at time. Sure. But one of the things you talked about that I think was important is that this work with students is so critical, but we ourselves as adults also need those SEL competencies in order to be able to work effectively with students. And for some of us, we may not be there yet. So do you have any thoughts regarding how, within our state or just in general, how we might be able to build SEL competencies as adults?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it just is leadership needs to support it. You need to provide the space and the place for adults to engage with one another in a meaningful way, to have these difficult conversations, to be able to really be able to have their own, to provide the choice and voice for adults, to be able to build the sense of belonging in the institutions in which they live, so that they feel like they have purpose there. But also some of this is about, just making sure you take care of yourself, right? And that you have these outlets in a beautiful state like Hawaii, that you can find the place that makes you happy, and that nourishes you and nourishes your soul, that you have that self-awareness to go find that when you need it. Because we must, to your point, and the pandemic has shown us this more than anything else, maybe in our lifetime, that we'll ever see, is that we need to make sure that we are healthy and we are happy in order to be able to impact students in the way that we're talking about. And so really working with leadership wherever you work, or if you are a leader yourself, providing those spaces for an engaging colleagues, engaging the folks that you work with, to really provide them that space to connect with one another, to build those relationship skills with one another, to have agency to voice what they need, to take the time that they need to be healthy. And yeah, I think that's what I would recommend.
Thank you so much. And we are at time. So Nicole, I'm going to turn it over to you to close us out. Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you so much, Andy, for all of the great information that you shared with us all today. And thank you to our audience for attending this plenary and for your engagement this morning. We have another exciting lineup of local and national speakers for our breakout sessions this morning. These sessions will again focus on setting up students, notably those from populations underrepresented in higher education, for success before, during, and after their early college experience. It's our hope that you'll come away from these sessions with resources, ideas, and strategies you can utilize in your own programs.
We'll take a short break before the first round of breakout sessions starts at 9:45, and those sessions will conclude at 10:45 with our second round of breakout sessions running from 11 a.m. to noon. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we hope that you have a wonderful day of reflection and learning. Take care.